Before I go into the main subject today, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the "is Netanyahu dead" conspiracy or thought. And I've looked at the videos very closely, and I don't think he's dead, but it is possible that they could have faked it with AI, though they would have had to use some technologies that I just haven't seen developed yet, though I believe they will be. So I think that in 3 years, will the kind of technology be public that could do what we saw? I think yes. I mean, I think already you could have an LLM that could generate what he would say, but I don't think it would be able to do the mannerisms that he said it with. Like he knocks his pen on the table. There are a bunch of stuff I think are just very difficult to do. But I just want to say if they could do it, or if they did do it, I would say that they used a model that was very similar to him, and he made the movements and he spoke, but they changed his face somehow. Now, again, I think this is technically possible. I haven't seen the technology out there like that. One of the big problems is the amount of compute that you would need. But I do think it's possible. I do think it'll be here in a few years. But no, I don't think. I think he's alive. But I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't. It's fascinating to really look at it and just go through the mental exercise. Anyway, enough of that. I'm now going to go into what I feel is not properly handled by the media, and so we'll go into my screen. Again, I want to say oil and gas and the currency is bought and sold and is the root of all real power is now all up for grabs in the Middle East. I want to say that this is what's going on could not be more serious. Now, and I also want to demonstrate why this is no joke whatsoever. So the first graph at the top is this is gasoline. So look, gasoline just in this month is basically gone from 2 to 4. It's doubled in price in a few weeks. Same thing for jet fuel, and the same thing for diesel. So gasoline means that all private individuals going to and from work, their gas prices doubled. This means if you're wealthy and you want to fly around, your airline costs have doubled. Now, we're not seeing it quite yet, but I expect mass ticket cancellations based on force majeure. So, I told my cousin he has a couple of flights coming up in the next, I think one in April and one in June, and I'm like, yeah, they're going to be canceled. That's my prediction. But we'll see. But yeah, I think that basically in a month, there'll be very few flights and they'll be super expensive. And then diesel, that's how everything moves around the world, from shipping to trucks to trains, you name it. I mean, factories. So this is a huge, huge thing. And because I don't see the Strait opening anytime soon, this is just, these are going to stay here or go up. I feel like for instance, gasoline, they're trying to keep it down. But we don't know what's going to happen if a panic starts. So this is pre-panic pricing. So to think that, okay, things have doubled before a panic, it's pretty, I can't say enough. So I want to go into the basics to explain why what we're going through today has never happened before, and why that aspect of it should be taken seriously. But just the basics if you don't know about this stuff. So you have the well, right, for all the gas and oil, and they pump out and they go into storage, and they go from storage into refining. The fracking, the distillation, whatever, into refined products, which are jet fuel, diesel, gasoline, whatever, and then they go into distribution. So because the Strait is closed, once the storage fills up, right, you can't take any more from the well. Where would you put it? You just have to stop the well, and then now everybody's just burning off the distribution. And that's actually what we're seeing in this previous graph. People are just saying, oh, well, we're going to assume that things will be straightened out for now, but the hiccup in distribution is going to double our price. So that makes sense, but this is where things get interesting. So in chess, you basically have the two main strengths or advantages. You have an advantage in time and you have an advantage in space, right? So it's the same thing here. So a well has a time weakness in that it generally only pumps at a certain rate, and you can't make it faster or slower, or it sort of hurts the well. The way they drill it, the way everything is set up is to optimize the flow, because if you go too fast or too slow, it actually hurts the well. So the time, they have everything optimized, they're pulling it out, and now they have to stop. So the weakness of storage is space. There's only so much space. Once these fill up, they have to stop taking oil from the well. And once they do that, then when they start up again, they have to re-optimize the rate at which they pull out the oil so as not to damage the well. And that's going to mean that it's going to be a suboptimal flow of oil. So we're 3 weeks in and nobody really knows, but I think it's true probably that they have enough storage for a month. So I think in a week or two, they're going to have to start capping these wells in a serious way. And that will mean that even if they open them a week later, they will not, I think Saudi Arabia does something like 10 million a day or something. They will not hit that whatever. They'll be like at 7 or 8 million. I'm just making up numbers, but it'll be a lot lower. So again, that's going to affect prices. But anyway, I want you to understand that the well has a time issue here, and then the storage has a space issue. You can't just add a lot of space here. And then when you have distribution, you have both those problems. You have just how quickly can you move the fuel around, and then how much storage are in the tankers themselves and the trucks. So once they burn through all this, because remember, everything from storage back to the well is tied up behind the strait. Once they burn through this, now there's a real shortage. And then this is a graphic just showing the three sectors of the oil and gas industry, upstream, which is the exploration and production, midstream, downstream. And I'm showing this graph because it's important to understand from a pricing point of view that as storage backs up, if the price goes up, right, the storage will start to back up because people stop buying as much. They don't load as much, and it just goes into storage. So you don't want the price to be too high. So they always want to keep the price low, basically just to keep this moving as efficiently as possible. But the price is low, then oil moves quickly from production to distribution. So in that case, then you have a problem where, you're not, the oil is moving too quickly, and you don't really want that. So, but you basically do have a strong incentive to keep prices low because, again, prices are high, the storage backs up, and you don't want to get to the point where you'd have to, close your well. So we've never been here before, and that's a huge thing, a huge. I just cannot stress how huge. And I want you to think back and think through it in your head, because then you'll get to the same conclusion, and the light bulb will pop off, go off. So the oil shocks of the 70s were not a production or storage issues. The Arabs simply stopped distribution to the West. They basically stopped shipping it. But there wasn't really a shortage of oil. And people have analyzed it later, said there never was, that actually the U.S. got so spooked and had these, made a run on gasoline just because they were afraid. But there actually was never a point where the oil wasn't flowing, like the U.S. was running out of oil. Yes, the Middle East stopped shipping it, but still in storage, the U.S. still had plenty of gasoline. So anyway, then we had the stock market crash in 2000. That was a tech bubble. There's a stock market crash in 2008. That's a debt bubble. Now, the COVID oil shock was a problem of demand, not production. So basically, people didn't want, enough. They didn't want oil. So they weren't using it because everybody's staying home. So it just basically started filling up these, these storage things. They didn't have room for it. It didn't really get to a problem here. It's more of a problem here. So too much was going from here to here. So they just had to basically sell it very cheaply. But there's never a problem with with oil getting backed up to the point where they had to shut down a well. It was a demand, so it just changed the rate of how they were doing things here. But there's never really in any stress on the oil. So for the first time in history, in a big way, it's happened in little ways before. The Middle East gas production is being closed due to having no place to put the oil and gas. And like I said, that's creating physical problems in the actual wells. Will create these problems in these wells that cannot easily be fixed. And also, the money is lost for good. Anyway, so as I said, the storage has a limit which cannot be expanded quickly. And then once storage is full, the time lost in production cannot be made up. So they can't just, like, even if they release it tomorrow, let's just say they cap the wells for a month, they can't make the wells go quickly and make up that lost money. That money is gone for good. Every day that they lose money, that they can't ship their oil, they lose money that cannot be made up. And that's a serious thing. Here's a graph that shows the history of the petrodollar system. As I said in other videos, it's over. I mean, it's just over. I mean, the U.S. has committed a blunder of epochal proportions. And this explains how the petrodollar system works, which I explained in another video. If everything's in dollars, right, everybody has to have dollars, so it's great. You can manipulate a little bit of this for the benefit of the United States. But you can't do that if oil is now going to be sold from currency to currency. If most of it is sold in the yuan, which I think is what's going to happen, it's going to go to yuan and foreign currencies, and the petrodollar will disappear, and then the reserve status of the U.S. dollar will be threatened because the petrodollar aspect is such a huge part of that. But this is not stuff that's going to happen tomorrow. This is stuff that'll happen in the next year or two, or whatever. And this just shows how there are other alternatives to it. So I just go through some thinking on this. Your country has a currency. To think through this in a generic way. Imagine your country has a currency that you use to exchange goods and services between you and your fellow citizens. You can't not use your currency because the government only accepts it to pay taxes. A lot of people don't understand why the U.S. dollar, why they have to have dollars. You have to have dollars to pay taxes. If you can't pay taxes, you go to prison. That's why. That's the power of the dollar. It's not because you need to buy other things. I mean, yes, that's what they want you to do. But ultimately, really, the power of a currency in a nation is the nation's insistence on only taking it for taxes, and if you don't pay taxes, you're put in jail. So, but the reason for that is supposedly the good of the people. Government, taxes go for all of us, has the power over the good of the individual. If the individual didn't want to pay taxes, well, too bad. You have to bow down to the good of the people. So when the system works well, everybody benefits and is happy, and everybody's wealth is the sum total of goods and services within their country. So, all this is fine. But imagine if your country has a currency that other countries must use when they buy, sell oil and gas. And this is, again, petrodollar, of course. So the other countries cannot use your currency. They can't not use your currency because the power of your country, economic, military, legal, etc., can be used by their countries to take advantage of countries not in the system. You're all in the club, right? You're all in the U.S. petrodollar club, and there's strength in numbers. So again, when the system works, everybody's happy. But the country with the currency that the world buys and sells oil and gas earns a kind of fee tax on letting other countries use your currency. It's like a casino, like we're the big casino, and everybody comes here. And so we make money on the transaction. Every time anybody sort of buys or sells oil and gas, the United States makes a little money. Every citizen. Again, not a certain set of people, which is why Trump and his merry band of idiots don't care about what they're doing, because they don't care on something that they can't personally get an interest in. Though Trump did go to the Middle East and I think extorted money from them. But in the general sense, they don't make money from the petrodollar, though we all benefit. So when countries do not derive power safety from being in your currency system, then it no longer makes sense for them to pay a fee to be in it. And that's just a problem here. Like, why should other countries now pay for their oil in dollars? What do they get out of it? And the Gulf Coast countries aren't getting anything because the U.S. isn't protecting them. And what does anybody else get? I mean, it's nice to have one reserve currency, but, with Trump doing the tariffs and saying he wants to take over Greenland, he's just pissed everybody off. So there's no love anymore. And so the soft dollar of the U.S. is gone. All this stuff is piling together to create what I believe is going to be the, anyway. So the other thing that's going on today is that wealth inequality, which has really ramped up since the pandemic, has obscured the declining resources because they personally need less of it. So I feel that I believe that the amount of oil available is declining anyway. It's a whole other subject, but we're not seeing it because as wealth drifts more to the wealthy, they don't really care if gas goes up to doubles or triples or whatever. They just don't care. So it's not in the news. Remember, the media is them talking to each other. It's the wealthy talking to each other. We're all talking to each other, right? So we're not really that concerned because we're a bit price insensitive to this type of stuff. While everybody at the bottom half, they are really getting killed. And so we just don't know how they're going to react. And I mean the U.S. and then even worse everywhere else. So the world is really, this is creating huge, anyway, I just wanted to go over that this has never happened before. Again, I want to stress that we've never had a situation where 20% of the world's oil cannot get to market and is being, basically is pooling into the storage to the point that wells are going to close. Now, when Russia invaded Ukraine, Peter Zane said, the oil is going to back up. They're going to close the wells. So he basically was very alarmist that, it's the end of Russia because they won't be able to get their oil to market. So I don't think he was wrong about the whole mechanism of how the oil backs up. What he didn't really quite understand or didn't foresee is that Russia had more shadow tankers than he understood. They had enough shadow tankers that they could just keep storing the oil in the tankers until they figured out, how to sell it. Plus, Europe didn't really cut Russia off from sending gas and oil its way because it needed it. I mean, it freezed in the winter. So even though Europe moved to the U.S. and Qatar is like their main natural gas supplier in the year, at year 2 and 3, whatever, it was long enough that Russia was able to adjust. They weren't, so this is a different situation here in the Middle East where Iran is like, boom, on February 28th, cut everything. Nothing is going through the Strait, 20%. And the consequences of that in the future, I believe, are going to be like beyond our imagination. And I don't even want to go into what I think might happen because I'll sound like a complete lunatic more than I already am. But yes, I believe there will be panics and a stock market crash that'll blow people's head. Anyway, where am I at? 18 minutes. Thanks for watching. Hope you found it interesting. Bye.